she saved a billionaire's life. Then discovered his family destroyed hers. A powerful love and redemption story. She was just a waitress, invisible, a nobody at a billionaire's glittering charity gala, until the moment a man slipped and she jumped. One impulsive dive into a pool would change her life forever. Because the man she saved wasn't just anyone. Nathaniel Whitmore, heir to a tech empire burdened by secrets, haunted by scars. And without knowing it, Claire had saved the son of the man who destroyed her family. 2 lives, 2 tragedies, 1 connection neither of them saw coming. This is a story about courage, forgiveness, and choosing to heal even when the past refuses to let go. Before we begin the story, leave a comment below, tell us where you're watching from, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our latest stories. Enjoy the story. The glow of the Pacific shimmered beyond the glass walls of the Whitmore estate, where a charity gala unfolded beneath chandeliers and whispered conversations. In the heart of Los Angeles, where status gleamed as bright as the diamonds on display, no one expected anything to disrupt the perfection of the evening. No one but Claire Bennett. Invisible in her black server's uniform, Claire moved through the crowd with practiced ease, refilling champagne flutes, clearing half-finished hors d'oeuvres. She was used to being overlooked. Tonight she preferred it that way. But then she saw him. Nathaniel Whitmore. At 33, the tech magnate was a living legend. His company, Luminar Mobility, had revolutionized adaptive technology after a tragic car accident left him permanently disabled. Once known for triathlons and deep-sea expeditions, Nathaniel now relied on sleek carbon fiber crutches to navigate his world. From the outside, he looked untouchable, confident, impeccably dressed in tailored Armani. But Claire saw what others didn't. The moments when his eyes drifted detached, distant, like he was watching his life happen from behind glass. So when she noticed him step away from his circle of admirers, making his way toward the infinity pool alone, Claire followed discreetly at first. It happened fast. A subtle misstep. One crutch slipping on the slick travertine edge. His balance lost in an instant. The splash shattered the night. And still no one moved. Dozens of guests adorned in couture stood frozen. Cocktails in hand, eyes wide, feet rooted in place as they watched Nathaniel struggle beneath the water's surface. Claire didn't think. Her tray hit the stone with a clatter as she bolted toward the pool. The cold hit her skin like a slap, but she didn't hesitate. In seconds, she was beside him. "Hold on to me," she ordered, wrapping one arm around his chest, using the other to steady them both. Nathaniel coughed violently, his words broken by panic. "I can't. My legs, I've got you," Claire said firmly, every muscle straining as she kicked toward the shallow end. Above them, the crowd merely watched. Spectators to a scene none of them would dare enter. Nathaniel's expensive suit clung to his body, heavy and waterlogged. His crutches floated nearby, drifting slowly toward the bottom of the pool. Claire's uniform was plastered to her skin, but she didn't care. All that mattered was getting him to safety. "Someone call an ambulance," she shouted once they reached the steps. Finally, movement. Guests fumbled for phones, not to help, but to record. A tall, elegant woman broke through the bystanders, her voice cracked with terror. "Nathaniel, my God, Nathaniel!" Claire recognized her immediately. Eleanor Whitmore, Nathaniel's mother, the matriarch of the Whitmore dynasty. Regal, composed, always in control. But tonight, she was pale, her facade cracking. Nathaniel managed to sit on the pool steps, water cascading from his suit, as he fought to catch his breath. "You're bleeding," he said suddenly, eyes narrowing on Claire's forearm, where a bright red scrape stood out against soaked fabric. It's nothing, she dismissed, though her body trembled from cold and adrenaline. A staff member approached with a towel. Claire took it grateful for the brief barrier between herself and the hundreds of curious eyes. "You're quite the swimmer," Nathaniel remarked, his tone soft, filled with something deeper now, gratitude maybe. Recognition. Before she could respond, another voice sliced through the air. "Wait. I know you." Claire turned, heart sinking. A woman approached her designer heels, clicking ominously against wet stone. "Claire Bennett, isn't it? You were a national swimming champion. Olympic trials back in 2020. Then you vanished." Claire's breath hitched. "I'm Marissa Clark, coach of the California elite swim team. I never forget a swimmer." Claire forced a tight smile. "You must be mistaken." But Marissa only tilted her head, considering. "Funny. You had the most beautiful butterfly stroke I've ever seen. A shame you disappeared." Nathaniel's gaze sharpened, flickering between Claire and the coach. "Claire couldn't stay. I need to change," she said quickly, retreating before anyone else could recognize her, before more questions could surface. In the staff bathroom, she braced her hands on the cold porcelain sink, staring at the reflection of a woman she barely recognized, wet shivering mascara streaking down pale cheeks. 3 years. 3 years she'd kept her head down, avoided pools, avoided the past. One impulsive act, and it was all back. Her phone vibrated, a message from her sister Lily. "How's the fancy party? Enough in tips to cover rent?" Claire stared at the screen for a moment before replying. "Complicated. I'll tell you later." Outside that bathroom, the world she'd carefully distanced herself from was closing in. Fast, and she wasn't sure she could outrun it this time. By the time Claire emerged from the staff corridor, the energy of the gala had shifted. The string quartet still played, waiters still floated by with trays of champagne, but the air buzzed with whispers. About the incident. About her. She felt the weight of every glance. Eleanor Whitmore was waiting. In the mahogany-lined study, she stood by the window, a silhouette of precision silver hair, immaculate silk gown, unwrinkled, as if the night's chaos had never touched her. "You saved my son's life." Eleanor began, her voice sharp as cut glass. "I did what anyone would have done," Claire replied quietly. Eleanor's lips curved into something resembling a smile. "But no one else did, Miss Bennett." Claire tensed as Eleanor reached into a desk drawer and retrieved a checkbook. The pen hovered, poised. "Nathaniel leads a complicated life. His condition makes him vulnerable, in ways people like you might not understand." Claire's spine straightened. "He seems very capable to me." The pen paused mid-signature. Eleanor's eyes narrowed. "Appearances, Miss Bennett, can be deceiving, as we've discovered about you tonight." She slid the check across the desk. Claire's breath caught. It was a sum that could erase months of debt, keep her sister in school, put food on the table without juggling 3 jobs. A life raft. "For your heroism," Eleanor said smoothly, "and your discretion. My son doesn't need distractions or entanglements." Claire didn't touch the check. "I don't want your money, Mrs. Whitmore." Eleanor's smile didn't falter. "Everyone wants money, dear. Especially those who claim they don't." Claire didn't flinch, but inside the storm was brewing. When she stepped outside, the cold reality hit harder than the pool water had. Her wages for the night gone. Terminated. Just like that. The catering manager's voice drifted through the hall. "Yes, Mr. Alvarez." "She caused quite a scene. No, she won't be working with us again." Claire's fists clenched. Above, in a window framed by velvet drapes, Nathaniel Whitmore stood, watching, not speaking, not moving, just watching. Their eyes met. For a moment, Claire wondered if he saw her. really saw her. But then the moment passed. The next morning, Claire was back where she belonged, waist deep in the chlorinated water of the East Side Community Center, teaching Miguel, a nervous 8-year-old, how to float. "That's it, Miguel. Small kicks. Windmill arms," she encouraged, her voice soft but firm. Miguel beamed as he reached the pool's edge. "I did it, Miss Claire." "You sure did." She ruffled his damp hair, pride warming her chest. Teaching was safe. Teaching made sense. But life, Claire knew too well, rarely stayed in safe lanes. That truth came crashing back when Nathaniel Whitmore appeared at the pool's edge. This time no crowd, no cameras, just him. He looked different in daylight, dressed down, no designer suit, but still effortlessly refined. And that guarded look in his eyes, the one she remembered from the party, was still there. "Mr. Whitmore," she greeted, cautious. "Nathaniel," he corrected, stepping closer. "I wanted to thank you, properly, for saving my life." "You already sent flowers," Claire replied, gathering her worn backpack. "No need for more." "I disagree." His crutches made a soft tap against the tile as he followed her toward the office. "You're good with the kids?" he said, watching Miguel splash his way through the shallow end. Claire sighed. "Teaching swimming pays better than drowning in it." A ghost of a smile touched his lips. "I heard about your job," Nathaniel said. "My fault, I'm afraid." "Don't flatter yourself," Claire said lightly, though the sting of it was still fresh. "That world doesn't like disruptions. Neither does mine," he admitted. "Which is why I need someone who can navigate it without flinching." She frowned, unsure where this was going. "I have a job offer," he continued. "Personal assistant. My last one quit 2 weeks ago." Claire blinked. "You want me to be your assistant based on what? My life-saving skills, based on the fact that you didn't freeze. You didn't hesitate. Everyone else worried about appearances. You acted." Claire folded her arms. "I'm not qualified. I've never been an assistant. You managed 4 kids in a pool today while teaching a 5th to float. You're more qualified than most." She opened her mouth to argue, but he raised a hand. "I need someone organized, someone discreet, someone who doesn't treat me like I'm fragile glass. You've already proven you can do all 3. Claire shook her head, but a part of her, the practical, exhausted, rent-is-due part, was listening. "You do realize your mother would rather set herself on fire than see me in your house again. My mother doesn't approve of most things I do," Nathaniel said with a shrug. "I've learned to live with it." He offered a folder. Inside the job description, salary, benefits. It was more than Claire made juggling 3 jobs. Triple, if she was honest. "The offer stands," Nathaniel said. "I need an answer soon, but I won't chase you." As he left, the echo of his crutches faded, but his words lingered. That night, Claire stared at the folder on her kitchen table. Her sister Lily breezed in, dropping her backpack with a grin. "So how's life as a superhero?" Claire rolled her eyes. "Less glamorous than it sounds." But when Lily noticed the folder, her expression sobered. "What's that job offer?" Claire said reluctantly, from Nathaniel Whitmore himself. Lily's eyes widened. "The guy you saved, Claire. That's huge. It's complicated." "Life always is," Lily said gently. "Doesn't mean you shouldn't take a chance." Claire didn't respond, but late that night, long after Lily had gone to bed, she found herself texting a single line. "I'll take the job." She didn't know it yet, but that decision would change everything. For both of them. The Whitmore estate looked different in daylight. Less like a palace, more like a fortress of glass and stone perched above the Pacific cliffs. Claire stood at the grand entrance, smoothing the simple blouse she'd borrowed for her first day. She'd said yes. A decision made in the quiet hours of the night, when practicality overpowered doubt. But now standing before Nathaniel's world, the magnitude of that decision pressed heavy on her shoulders. Inside the housekeeper, a kind woman named Rosa greeted her with a warm smile. "You must be Miss Bennet. Mr. Whitmore is expecting you." Claire followed Rosa through sunlit hallways, the ocean sprawling beyond floor-to-ceiling windows. Opulence in every corner. Yet somehow it felt empty. Nathaniel waited in his home office. He rose when she entered, moving with deliberate ease, cane replacing the crutches today. The sunlight caught the silver at his cufflinks, a subtle reminder of the life he lived. Or perhaps endured. Claire he greeted with a nod that was neither formal nor familiar. "Welcome aboard. Let's see if you still feel that way after my first week." She replied, a flicker of dry humor breaking through her nerves. A small smile tugged at his lips. Progress. He handed her a tablet. Calendar management, correspondence, travel, logistics. Physical therapy sessions are non-negotiable. My board meetings are on Mondays, development team calls on Wednesdays. I'll spare you the rest for now. Claire absorbed the information with quiet focus, her fingers deftly navigating the screen. "Questions?" Nathaniel asked. "Just one," she said, looking up. "That night, at the gala, you left the crowd and went straight to the pool. Why?" He wasn't expecting that. For a heartbeat, the facade cracked. "Sometimes," he said slowly, "I need space. To breathe. Or remember how." The answer lingered between them, fragile and raw. Before Claire could reply, a familiar voice sliced through the air. "Good morning, Nathaniel." Eleanor Whitmore appeared in the doorway, every inch the queen of her empire. Her gaze settled on Claire with the same sharpness as before. "Miss Bennet," she acknowledged coolly. "I see you've accepted my son's offer." "I have," Claire replied evenly. "Interesting choice, for both of you." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Mother Claire's role here is not up for discussion. Eleanor's lips thinned. "Of course. I wouldn't dream of interfering." But the weight of her presence was suffocating. When she finally left, Claire exhaled, realizing she'd been holding her breath. "She's intense," Claire said carefully. "That's a polite way of putting it," Nathaniel replied, his tone dry. The morning passed in a blur of logistics and meetings. Claire's efficiency was undeniable. She didn't flinch at last-minute changes, didn't hover anxiously, didn't treat him like glass. She simply did her job. By midday, Nathaniel found her in the private gym reviewing his physical therapy schedule. "You missed this morning's session," she said without looking up. "I rescheduled." "You skipped it," Claire corrected, glancing at him. His brow lifted. "Do you plan to monitor all my shortcomings?" "Only the ones that slow your recovery," she shot back. That surprised him. Most people danced around his condition. Claire confronted it head-on. He tested her further. "Are you a physical therapist now too?" "No," she said, moving toward him. "But I trained under Olympic coaches. Form matters. You're compensating with your right side. You're going to hurt yourself." Before he could protest, she demonstrated correcting his posture with hands-on precision. Her touch was professional, but something about it, the assuredness, the familiarity, sent a current through the air. Nathaniel followed her adjustments. When he completed the exercise with less strain, genuine surprise flickered across his face. "You're full of surprises, Miss Bennet." "I'm multi-talented," she replied, stepping back. The distance didn't seem as vast now. In the late afternoon, Claire was organizing his office when she stumbled upon a set of blueprints, designs for an indoor rehabilitation pool, state-of-the-art adaptive equipment, every detail meticulously planned. She was still studying them when Nathaniel re-entered. Snooping, he asked, arching a brow. Filing, she corrected. This is impressive. A project in development. Inspired by personal experience. Claire looked up, reading between the lines. You haven't been in a pool since that night, have you? His silence was answer enough. Water used to be my element, Nathaniel admitted. Now it feels like another thing I've lost. Claire rolled up the blueprints carefully. It doesn't have to be. The challenge hung in the air, but Nathaniel wasn't ready. That will be all for today, Miss Bennett. The formality stung, but Claire simply nodded. Understood. As she gathered her things, her phone buzzed. Lily, how's day one with Mr. Billionaire? Claire smiled to herself before replying. Complicated, but manageable. Nathaniel's voice followed her to the door. For what it's worth, Miss Bennett. She turned. Thank you. For not pretending. Claire's smile was small but real. You're welcome. Outside, as the sun dipped below the Pacific, Claire felt the shift, subtle, imperceptible to most. But she knew. Lines had been drawn, and now slowly they were being blurred. Days turned into weeks. Claire found her rhythm in Nathaniel Whitmore's world. She organized his schedule with surgical precision, coordinated board meetings without missing a beat, and made sure not a single physical therapy session was skipped, not on her watch. But beneath the professional veneer, something was shifting. It was in the way Nathaniel's gaze lingered on her a little longer than necessary, in the way their conversations slipped into familiar territory, dry banter that felt dangerously close to flirtation. He was still guarded, still careful. But Claire had learned to read the silences. One afternoon, as she reviewed quarterly reports in his office, Nathaniel's voice cut through the quiet. Do you regret it? Claire looked up, surprised. Regret what? Leaving competitive swimming, walking away before the trials. She hadn't expected that. Not from him. That's personal, she said. I'm aware, Nathaniel replied, but you've made it your mission to push me beyond my comfort zone. Consider this, returning the favor. Claire exhaled slowly, weighing her words. Life happened, she said at last. When my parents died, everything shifted. Suddenly swimming felt selfish, irrelevant. His eyes softened, the sharp businessman replaced by something far more human. I understand, he said quietly. Loss has a way of rearranging priorities. Their gazes locked. In that moment, it wasn't Claire the assistant and Nathaniel the CEO. It was two people who knew what it meant to lose everything and still keep going. Before the tension could tip into something else, Rosa appeared at the door. Mr. Whitmore, your mother is here. Of course she was. Claire gathered her tablet, slipping back into professional mode as Eleanor Whitmore entered, regal as ever. Miss Bennett, Eleanor greeted with her usual frost. Still here, I see. Mrs. Whitmore, Claire replied evenly. Nathaniel intervened before his mother could sharpen her words further. Mother, what can we do for you today? I was hoping to discuss the Foundation's next event. Privately. Claire took the cue, excusing herself with practiced grace. But as she passed Eleanor, she caught the older woman's parting shot. Be careful, Miss Bennett. My son has a history of attracting complicated women. Claire didn't flinch. She'd weathered worse, but the words lingered. That evening, as she prepared to leave, she found Nathaniel in the rehabilitation wing, staring at the unused pool. You've been avoiding this, Claire said softly. He didn't deny it. I'm not afraid of water, he said. I'm afraid of failing in it. Claire approached, her voice steady. Failure isn't drowning, Nathaniel. It's refusing to try. He turned to her, then vulnerability etched in every line of his face. "You make it sound so simple. It's not," she admitted. "But it gets easier. One stroke at a time." For a long moment they stood in silence, the hum of the building filling the space between them. Then without a word, Nathaniel removed his shoes, rolled up his pant legs, and sat on the pool's edge. Claire joined him, their feet submerged in the cool water. "I haven't done this since the accident," he confessed. "First time for everything," she said. He glanced at her, a wry smile playing at the corner of his mouth. "You're relentless." "So are you," Claire countered. The air crackled, charged with something neither of them was ready to name. When their hands brushed, barely a current shot through her. A simple, accidental touch. But it was enough. Enough to make Claire realize that this, whatever this was far more dangerous than she had anticipated. But also, inevitable. That night, as she left the estate, her phone buzzed. A text from Nathaniel. "Thank you for not letting me hide." Claire stared at the screen, heart pounding. She typed, then deleted, then typed again. "Anytime, Nathaniel. Send." It was the first time she'd used his first name. A line crossed, but not the last. The Whitmore Foundation's annual benefit was a grand affair. Crystal chandeliers reflected in marble floors, soft jazz floated through the air, and Los Angeles's elite glided from conversation to conversation, draped in couture and careful smiles. Claire moved through the crowd with practiced ease, though tonight she wasn't here as staff. Tonight she stood beside Nathaniel Whitmore not as his assistant, but as his chosen guest. A calculated move, no doubt one that hadn't gone unnoticed. She could feel the weight of the stares. Curious, appraising, some not so kind. Nathaniel, as always, seemed impervious. "You don't have to stay glued to my side all evening," he murmured, his lips curving with quiet amusement. "Are you trying to get rid of me?" Claire shot back. "Never," he said, voice low, and there was something in his gaze that made her breath catch. But before she could reply, Eleanor Whitmore appeared. Claire Eleanor greeted all elegance and civility. "A word, if you please." Nathaniel's posture tensed immediately. "Mother, it's quite all right," Claire interrupted. "I can handle a conversation." She followed Eleanor through the crowd, each step measured, each breath steady. They stopped in a quiet alcove away from the clinking glasses and polite laughter. "I'll be direct," Eleanor began. "You've become attached to my son." Claire met her gaze. "He's not an object, Mrs. Whitmore. He doesn't belong to you." Eleanor's smile was thin. "Careful, Miss Bennet. You know nothing of what you're walking into. Enlighten me." For the first time, Eleanor's mask slipped. Only slightly, but enough for Claire to see the edge beneath the polish. "My late husband, Richard Whitmore, was involved in an accident 3 years ago. A car crash. He was intoxicated. He killed 2 people, a married couple." The words hit with brutal clarity. Claire's stomach turned. "I know," Eleanor continued softly. "I know who they were. Their names, their daughter." A chill spread through Claire's veins. "You see, Miss Bennet, coincidences in our world are rarely accidental. And I can't help but wonder, did you seek Nathaniel out? Was this fate or something far more deliberate?" Claire's breath stilled. She hadn't known, not until now. But suddenly the pieces rearranged themselves into a cruel, perfect picture. Her parents, killed by Richard Whitmore. The same night she had qualified for the Olympic trials, the same tragedy that had shattered her world. "I didn't know," Claire said, her voice barely a whisper. "I never knew his name." Perhaps Eleanor allowed? "But you know now, and so does he." Claire's chest tightened. You told him. Eleanor's lips twitched. He's not a fool, Miss Bennet, but he's sentimental, emotional. He believes in redemption. I, however, believe in protecting what remains of my family. Claire felt the floor tilt beneath her. This wasn't just about her job, or even her budding relationship with Nathaniel. This was about history, about guilt, about the blood on the Whitmore name. And now Claire was entwined in it. Eleanor's voice softened, laced with finality. Walk away, Miss Bennet, cleanly. Spare my son the inevitable hurt. This connection is built on grief. Nothing more. Claire didn't respond. Couldn't. The walls felt closer now, the air thinner. When she returned to the main hall, Nathaniel was searching for her concern etched into his face. Claire. But she couldn't. Not here. Not now. She fled the glittering ballroom, her pulse pounding in her ears, the truth heavy in her chest. Outside, the cool air was sharp biting. She gulped it down like a lifeline. Her phone vibrated. Lily. How's the gala? Are you surviving the fancy people? Claire's fingers hovered over the screen. Not tonight, she typed. Call you tomorrow. As she slipped into a waiting car, she caught a final glimpse of Nathaniel through the glass, searching for her, looking lost. And she wondered if this, whatever it was between them, had just drowned beneath the weight of a past neither of them had seen coming. For the first time in months, Claire wasn't sure if she was running away to protect herself or to protect him. Claire hadn't slept. Not really. She'd replayed Eleanor's words in her mind all night, each syllable cutting deeper than the last. The truth was an anchor dragging her back into memories she'd spent 3 years burying. Her parents, the accident, the man responsible, Richard Whitmore. And now, Nathaniel. He wasn't his father. She knew that. But the weight of the connection pressed down, suffocating. By morning, she had made a decision. When Nathaniel appeared at her apartment door, he looked different. Tired, disheveled, vulnerable. 3 days, Claire, he said, skipping pleasantries. 3 days without a word. What happened at that gala? She stood in the doorway, clutching the frame as if it could hold her upright. Your mother told me the truth, she said quietly. Nathaniel's jaw tightened. I assumed she might. Claire swallowed hard. It was your father, Nathaniel, the drunk driver. He killed my parents. Silence crashed between them. His face paled, but he didn't look away. I know, he said at last. I've known for a long time, but I didn't know it was you, your family, until my mother clarified. Claire's breath hitched. And you didn't think I deserved to know. I wanted to tell you. God, Claire, I tried. But how do you even begin a conversation like that? By the way, my father destroyed your life. The words landed heavy, raw. I didn't seek you out. Nathaniel, Claire said, her voice trembling. I didn't know until that night. But now it's all I can think about. He stepped forward. Claire, look at me. Against her better judgment, she did. This, what's between us, is not my father's legacy. I won't let it be. You and I, we found each other because we were both drowning. Maybe that's messy. Maybe it's complicated. But it's also real. Claire wanted to believe him. Every part of her ached to, but the scars ran deep. How am I supposed to separate you from that night? She whispered. From everything that was taken from me by remembering everything we've built since he said, You've seen me at my worst, Claire, and still you stayed. You pushed me to get back in the water, to fight for my life again. Don't let my father's sins drown us both. Tears blurred her vision, but she blinked them away. "This isn't fair," she said. "No, it's not," Nathaniel agreed. "But it's ours, and we get to decide what happens next." His hand reached for hers, hesitant, giving her the choice. Claire looked down at their entwined fingers, so different yet somehow fitting. "I don't know if I can forgive him," she admitted. "I'm not asking you to," Nathaniel said softly. "I'm asking you to give us a chance. Despite him." The vulnerability in his voice was her undoing. She'd spent so long being strong, being guarded. Maybe it was time to let someone else carry the weight with her. Just this once. Claire exhaled a shaky breath. "All right, Nathaniel. One chance. But we do this my way. No secrets, no lies. And if your mother comes near me with another check, I'll throw it in the ocean." A slow, genuine smile spread across his face. The first real one in days. Understood. He squeezed her hand gently. In that moment, it wasn't about revenge, or guilt, or legacy. It was about choice. And for the first time since the accident, Claire was choosing herself. Not the past, not the pain, but what just maybe could become her future. With him. The indoor pool shimmered beneath the soft glow of recessed lights. It was quiet this time. No glittering party, no prying eyes. Just Claire and Nathaniel. He stood at the edge, barefoot, his reflection rippling in the water. A place that once felt like home now loomed like a mirror of everything he'd lost. Claire watched him from a few steps away, arms folded, not as his assistant, not as a woman tangled in the threads of his family's sins, but as his equal. "Still afraid of drowning?" she asked gently. Nathaniel's lips quirked. "Not of water." Claire nodded, stepping closer. "You don't have to be fearless to get back in." He looked at her, then really looked at her. And in his eyes she saw it, not the billionaire everyone else bowed to, not the son weighed down by his father's mistakes, but the man she'd pulled from a pool weeks ago. The man still learning to breathe. Without another word, he eased himself into the water. It welcomed him quietly. No fanfare, just the soft resistance of liquid memory. Claire joined him, the water lapping at her waist as she approached. "Let's start simple," she said. "Float first. Trust the water to hold you." Nathaniel's jaw tightened. Old habits, old fears. But he nodded. Claire moved behind him, placing her hands beneath his shoulders, steadying. "I've got you." It was the same thing she'd said the night she saved him. Only now it meant more. Slowly, cautiously, Nathaniel leaned back, surrendering to the water. His body resisted, at first tense, uncertain. But Claire's hands were steady, her voice calm. "Breathe, Nathaniel. The water knows what to do. You just have to let it." For a long, breathless moment, the only sound was his exhale. And then it happened. His body relaxed. His legs, once rigid with fear, surrendered. His arms extended, floating. The water held him. He was not broken, not defeated, not drowning. When he opened his eyes, Claire was smiling. "You're doing it." A soft laugh escaped him. "It's not pretty. It doesn't have to be." She moved beside him now, treading water effortlessly, matching his slow, deliberate movements. "This is where I feel most like myself," she admitted. "In the water. Everything else disappears." Nathaniel's gaze softened. "Funny. I used to think that too, until it became the place where everything changed." Claire's expression grew serious. "It doesn't have to stay that way." They moved in sync, slow laps that weren't about distance or speed, but reclaiming something lost. Stroke by stroke, breath by breath. By the time they reached the far end of the pool, Nathaniel was no longer fighting the water, and Claire was no longer fighting herself. They paused, breathless, close enough that the space between them was a decision. "I'm proud of you," she said softly. "Not as much as I am of you," he replied. Claire felt the tension simmer beneath the surface, this fragile, unspoken thing between them. "I didn't think we'd get here," she whispered. "Neither did I," Nathaniel confessed. "But here we are." The moment hung delicate and dangerous, and then without the weight of obligation, guilt, or past mistakes, he reached for her. Not demanding, not desperate, simply offering. Claire met him halfway. The kiss was tentative at first, soft, testing, but as their lips met, as the water cradled them both, it deepened into something neither of them could deny. It wasn't about saving or fixing, it was about choosing. When they parted, foreheads resting together, Nathaniel smiled. First stroke's always the hardest. Claire laughed, the sound echoing against the water, but worth it. That night, as they floated beneath the high glass ceiling, stars spilling through, Claire realized something. Healing wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It was moments like this. Quiet, intentional. Two broken people choosing to rise, not because the past didn't matter, but because the future deserved more than pain. Together, they found their rhythm. Stroke by stroke. Step by step. Forward. 1 year later, the Whitmore Bennett Adaptive Sports Center opened its doors. It wasn't just a building. It was a promise. To those told their lives had limits. To those who believed the water was no longer their friend. To those who had lost parents, futures, hope. The sun poured through the glass facade as families gathered for the grand opening. Children with braces and wheelchairs lined up at the edge of the pool, their faces bright with anticipation. Claire stood quietly at the entrance, watching them. A smile played at her lips, not the guarded smile she used to wear, but one born of real, hard-earned pride. She felt Nathaniel's presence before she saw him. He came to stand beside her, no crutches today. Just a sleek graphite cane for balance. His hand found hers, fingers intertwining with familiar ease. "Not bad for two people who nearly drowned in their own lives," he said softly. Claire squeezed his hand. Not bad at all. The past year had been a battle. There were boardrooms filled with skeptics. There were late nights designing programs, hiring staff, building something from scratch. There were hard conversations with Eleanor, who, to her credit, had eventually offered not just funding, but respect. The weight of legacy had shifted. It no longer pressed down on Nathaniel like a curse. It became fuel. For him. For Claire. For every child who now had a place where limitations were challenged, not accepted. Claire spotted her sister Lily across the room, animatedly explaining a new nutrition program to a group of parents. Her success was a quiet victory, one Claire treasured deeply. "She's thriving because of you," Nathaniel said, following her gaze. Claire smiled. "She's thriving because she's her own force of nature." Just then, the event coordinator approached. "Mr. Whitmore, Ms. Bennett, it's time for the dedication speech." As they stepped onto the small stage, applause rippled through the crowd. Nathaniel took the microphone first. "A year ago, Claire Bennett pulled me from the water. Literally. But in truth, she did much more than that. She challenged me to stop existing and start living again. To create something meaningful from the wreckage of our stories." His gaze found hers. "This center isn't about what we've lost. It's about what we can build. Together." Claire felt the lump rise in her throat as she accepted the mic. "When you're drowning, you think you're alone. You think no one sees you, but sometimes the person who reaches for you is the last one you'd expect. Someone who understands what it means to lose their footing. Someone who's still learning how to stand tall again. She looked out at the crowd, at the children, the families, at Nathaniel. This place is for all of us learning to stand, to swim, to move forward, not despite our scars, but because of them. The applause was thunderous, but what mattered most was the quiet squeeze of Nathaniel's hand. Later, as the event wound down, Claire stood by the pool's edge, watching as a young boy, braces glinting, took his first unassisted swim. Tears pricked her eyes. This was why. Not redemption, not charity, but choice. Nathaniel joined her, slipping an arm around her waist. Do you remember what you said to me that first night I got back in the water? Probably something bossy, Claire teased. You said failure isn't drowning, it's refusing to try. Claire smiled. Still true. Nathaniel reached into his pocket, pulling out a small velvet box. Claire's breath caught. You don't have to kneel, she whispered. I'm not kneeling for the past, he said. I'm asking you to build the future with me. Inside the box, nestled against midnight blue velvet, was a ring. Simple, elegant. A sapphire set between two entwined bands of silver and gold. Water and light. Their story. Claire's heart swelled. Yes, she said without hesitation. The kiss that followed wasn't dramatic. It wasn't grand. It was quiet, intentional, perfect. Because they both knew now the deepest love stories aren't born from fairy tales. They're built, stroke by stroke, choice by choice. In the reflection of that water, two people who had once been drowning now stood side by side. Not saved, but seen. Not fixed, but whole. Together. And that's where today's story ends. But perhaps for Claire and Nathaniel, it's really just the beginning. Now I'd love to hear your thoughts. Do you believe love can truly heal wounds from the past? Could you open your heart to someone so deeply connected to your pain? Let me know what you feel in the comments. Your stories, your opinions, they mean so much here. And if you enjoy these kinds of heartfelt, emotional journeys, stories about resilience, forgiveness, and the beauty of unexpected connections, I'd be honored if you subscribed to the channel. Every week, we dive into stories that remind us we're not alone in what we feel. So thank you for listening, for feeling, for being here. I'll see you in the next story.